Hello everybody, welcome to this PlayOnCon panel thingy tie-in tutorial. So we're going to talk about creating the dragon logo today, and I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. But you should be able to follow along, because it'll be like you'll be able to watch it while you're doing it. This will require Element 3D and Optical Flares 3D, which you can acquire from videocopilot.net. They cost money, however, and if you do not want to spend that on them, you can try to follow along just using similar things inside of After Effects. You can do this, of course, all with the built-in Ray Trace 3D engine, although it will take a long time. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click this little new composition button and call this Dragon, except we're going to spell it right. Hey, that's a cool thing. Alright, and 7 seconds, 1280-720, looks good, and hit OK. So now we're going to take this dragon layer here, bring it out, and it's just a thing I downloaded off of Google Images. Just Google something like this. I think I searched dragon symbol. This came up, and so what we're going to do is going to bring this in, click on it, and choose Layer, Auto Trace, and Preview. You'll get a preview there. That's what it's going to look like, and hit OK. And so now you have a mask around this object here. And we can turn this off. We don't need it on anymore. We can hit Control-T and get some text. And we're just going to type dragon. We're going to type paragon. Alright. And so we have this now. This is text. The font is called God of War. It can be downloaded from dafont.com. It is a free license, so you do not have to worry about copyright issues. Alright. So bring that out. Shut it off as well. So now we're going to need to use Element and create a new solid. You can either go up Layer, New Solid, right-click on the timeline, or just hit Control-Y. And call this Element, and we're going to get that little thing out of the middle there. And it doesn't matter the color for this because the plugin will override that. So we can go in here, Element, already searched for it. And so under here we're going to go to the Custom Layers, and Custom Text and Masks. And for the first one we're going to click on Paragon. And then if we go to Scene Setup, we can just hit Extrude, and we have some text. Done. Now we got to bevel the backside. We're going to set this up really quickly. Under the extrusion model, you're going to go and make 2 copies of the bevel. On the first copy, you're going to drop down the materials here. We're going to go to the stone, and we're going to grab the stone 3, and just drag that out. And it looks weird. That's only because there's a second bevel directly underneath it. I actually like stone 10 a little bit better, so I'm going to use that. Actually, it's a little bright, so I'm going to use stone marble 9. Alright, so we got marble 9 and bevel 2. I'm going to take this and pull up the metal and bring up copper rough. Alright, get that. Yeah, it's going to look weird. So go into marble 9, and you're going to want to adjust the texture here, or adjust the model size. So expand the edges just out a little bit so you don't get that weird clipping. And then bring the extrusion level down a good bit. So like right about there, 0.32. For the copper rough, we're going to bring that down a little bit more, but not so much that it doesn't show through. So bring it down to about, say, 0.47. Bevel the backside, so that looks good. And then we'll take the Z offset and push this thing here to the middle, so that's about negative 0.07. And you see we've got the text with its nice outline. And if you turn off draft textures, everything will take a second to load up, but it'll look way nicer, you can see. Alright, turn that back on, because it just makes everything render faster. And so if you want to go to the first one here and expand the edges up a bit, you can kind of get a bigger underline. One thing you're going to want to do, though, is you're going to want to go to the spike filter in the extrusion model and turn that up all the way to 1, just to make sure that there's no weird little edges. Alright, so that's the text. Text is good. Text is done. So you bring that in here to the new layer, and it'll show up in a second. There you go. There it is. You can create a new camera by Layer, New Camera, and we're going to call this Camera. Let's see here. 28 millimeters. Looks good. Alright, and so now you see that it's got a little bit of parallax already. Hit C just to activate the Unified Camera tool. And then if you zoom in here, you can kind of see that it looks really good. Alright, so there's that. That's done. we can now go into element again and choose on layer 2, dragon symbol. Alright, now if you go back into element setup, we can go extrude, and under extrusion model, we'll create a new one. Set this to layer 2, and under here click custom path 1, change it to custom path 2, and then you've got a dragon. And turn up the spike filter. There it is. Always do the spike filter, it just helps with dealing with little issues. Alright, so here's the dragon. And we're going to lower the extrusion amount on this one. And this is going to be a little bit thinner than text. Bring the expansion up a bit. Alright. And then we're going to create a second bevel. And then on this one we're going to make it, bring that in a little bit, and then shrink it down. And bevel both of the backs on that one. And then kind of just scooch this one forward, same as we did with the text, so it sits right in the middle there, like an outline. And for this one, we're going to use Gold Grunge on bevel 2. And on bevel 1, we're going to use, where does it live? Stone. We're going to use Stone 3. There we go. Alright, so there's our dragon done, and our text is done. So now we can bring this out. There it is. Alright, so if you go into group 2, particle replicator, and open up the particle look as well, you can scale that down a little bit, and then if you go with your camera, you can kind of turn around. And you're going to want to push this back in Z space. It's not too far behind, but it's just back there. You can then move it up a little bit, and then maybe you scale it back up just a touch. Alright, cool. So now it should show up right in the middle when the text is perfectly aligned. Looks good. Alright, so now we're going to do our camera movement. And I'm going to do it differently than I did in the presentation. So if you hit the P, then Shift A, then Shift R, you can drop down all the keyframes you'll need. You just click this out and drag to the bottom. And right click on those, and I will choose Easy Ease, which makes them smooth. Now you can zoom way in here, and you see the dragon. Hopefully I'm gonna go through that little hole in the A, maybe. There's an O, right? There's an O. No, the O has a thing in the middle. I'll go through the G. Alright, so if you just kind of aim through that G there, you can just bring it out and set that up. Right now, you're going to move forwards. I like to do it like 2 seconds, and then zoom out, and kind of keep it aligned just to make sure that it doesn't get clippy. Right, so like that. So we can make sure it doesn't do that by just kind of bringing it up a little bit. Right there. And maybe bringing this down a little bit, just to make sure that it doesn't clip off the top of that G. Alright, cool. That looks good. And then we can pull this out even farther. Take these keyframes and just drag them back to like the middle, and then make a new set right here. And for this new set, we're going to then drag out and over. And for this middle set, we're just going to click on there and then control click. So now you can come through with those, and just bring it out. So just make sure that it doesn't clip off any parts of this G. When the camera gets close to it, it'll do some clipping, which will look weird. Just kind of maybe bring this over a little bit. There you go. And then it'll kind of come out, and you can rotate it a little bit, and kind of move it over, just so it has a bit of parallax there. And then nope, again it's clipping the G, so we can move this over by making sure it's on those layers, and then there we go. Alright, and if you hit 0, you can kind of RAM preview that and watch it through. Alright, and it looks a little bit fast, so if we just select all the keyframes, and if you hold down Alt, you can drag, and that will expand them. Alright, I'm going to bring this, let's see here, bring this one over a little bit so they're kind of right in the middle. And then we're going to click on the point of interest here on these keyframes, and you can just drag this curve up after you've clicked on this motion curve editor. You can just drag that curve up, and just so it kind of merges nicely with this one. You see it'll be slow, and then it'll kind of speed up, and then it'll slow down. You see? Pretty cool. You can kind of go in here and just play with these curves. You'll know that the the slope of the curve represents the speed. So you'll see right here it's going to be pretty fast, but then it's going to get slower and slower. And say if it was like this, it would be almost stopped at like right here, but it would be still slowly moving. And right here, we go really, really fast. So you don't want to do that. We just play around with the motion curves because they can do some fun things. Alright, so I think we've got the camera movement done. I like this one actually a little bit better than I did in my original tutorial, or my original version. And kind of just zoom out a touch and rotate it and move it over a little bit. Alright, so now we're going to do some lighting. So for lighting, go into Element, close all these off, we don't need to do with those, and go into the render settings, and turn on ambient occlusion, which will be just right that. You can bring the intensity up, bring the size up a little bit if you want. Alright, so there's that. So now we see we have a little bit of kind of darkening around the edges where the text is, getting close. Alright, and so under lighting, just use 360-degree lighting. Alright, so now that lights it kind of nicely. But we're not done. If you hit Control-Alt-Shift-L, you can bring up a light, and we're going to make it a red. A little bit darker red light. And hit OK. And so there's a light. It's on here somewhere. I don't know exactly where it is, so if you go to the top view, you can find it. There it is. And I will take this light and pull it out here in front of the camera so I can see it, and just go to the active camera. Now I'm going to bring it down so that it's lighting the bottom of the text. And you can zoom in here and I can kind of see it. Back into Element, you can go under these additional lighting, and you can take the rotation and just kind of play around with how those look. If you want, you can take the dramatic, and that already adds a bit of red, which is good. You can bring that, and that gives us just those nice highlights there to the bottom. Alright, so that's good. This now looks pretty red. Looks cool. So now we're going to make a new solid, and we're going to call this optical flares. And, okay. And then you're going to bring up optical flares, and just drop them on here, and that'll initialize, and you have a lens flare, which looks lovely. And so we're going to do track lights, and where is that? The first comp light. So that's going to come in, you can see that it's right there on the light. And it's going to be red, same color as the lighting, and if you go into options, we're going to choose a specific flare, and that will be under motion graphics, I believe. No, it's not. It is under light, and it's called beached. So open up the beached flare, and we can go in here and edit the certain parts of it. I'm pretty sure, where is it? It's this one. We do not want the multi-iris, I guess it's the first one. So just delete it. And then lens objects, you can go in here, and we want custom. Where is it at? Let's see. We want a spike golden. So if you take that gold spike, it'll just look much nicer, shining up from the bottom. You can see all the light rays. And I hit OK. Alright, so you've got that now. And if you just hit blending mode and change that to add, you can see it gives a nice, kind of a nice light coming up from the bottom. If we want to, we can just tint it more red. I'm actually going to tint it kind of a gold color. Alright, so now you see that as you come out, that's going to show up as the light comes into view. Alright, and always you can turn on flicker with this if you want. So just turn up the amount and turn up the speed. You can see that it's still rendering pretty fast actually. It's got a little bit of flicker on there. It looks kind of weird, so we can turn up the speed a lot to like 80. I'm not going to save this right now. Alright, so there you go. Now we're going to do a couple more things here. We need the background, obviously. So for the background, we're going to make a new solid and call it background, or just BG. And we're going to bring out optical flares again. And in options, we do not need to make this one 3D or track lights, so just go into the natural flares and pick one that you like. I think I like this tack light. So I'm going to take the tack light, and I'm going to go into lens objects. I'm going to find lens orbs and bring those out. Alright. And I'm going to bring those up and bring the scale of them down a little bit. And then in custom, Go in here and maybe you can find some lens grunge, like some dirt on the lens or something. Let's see. There we go. Cool lens orbs. I'm going to scale those just down a little bit more. Alright, and just okay. Alright, so now you've got that. And I'm going to make this red. And then I'm going to scale it up. Just a little bit. Bring the brightness up. Bring the brightness just down so it doesn't ever white out like that. Now put it below everything. And you can see it looks okay. But now we're going to make a new adjustment layer. You should right click in there. Bring it below everything, but just above the background. And hit enter, and we're going to call this blur. And this will take a long time to render, but it'll be worth it. If you just hit camera, and camera lens blur is the one you want. Bring that up to blur. You can see it just gets a little bit blurry there. But we need to bring this way up. And repeat edge pixels just so it does not get off. And hexagon. And highlight. We need to bring the highlights up. Alright, bring the threshold a little bit down. Bring the saturation up. Alright, so now you've got that. And that just looks great. If you want to, you can actually go in here and make these a 3D lens flares. In which you could you just kind of find them, and they're very, very bright in 3D. So you're going to kind of want to bring that down a little bit to like about 60%. That may still be too bright, actually. Alright, so we bring that out. And as it comes out, you can see that it just kind of pans in there from the side. And bring it like that. Alright. And, of course, always what you're going to do with the backgrounds is you're going to want to take it and just hit the T key to activate the opacity. And just bring that down a little bit. And this is looking very pink, by the way. I'm not exactly sure why. So I'm going to take the optical flares, the first one, and make it red. Make it white, and then it'll kind of take the color of the light. Uncheck use light color. That's what I was doing wrong. There we go. So just kind of make it a golden color. Maybe add a little bit of orange in there. There we go. Alright, so now you see you've got that, and we've got the background that kind of moves and shifts. Except you can't really see it right now. So, where's that Z position? So bring that out there into the Z position so it's visible, and then pull that out. We can bring the opacity to like 60, I think. It's good. And if you want to, you can just duplicate this background layer and kind of move the flares around. So put one down this corner maybe, and you want to scale up brightness a little bit. Bring up the scale of everything, or bring it down maybe, so it's got little extra spots in there. Alright, so now we're going to do particles. Particles are fun. So let's do hit Control Y. Call it particles, and we're going to go to particle world, because I do not own Trapcode Particular, so CC particle world. Alright, so now you've got particles, and as you zoom out, you'll see particles are being weird. So we don't want that. We're going to solo the particles by clicking this little button here, and we're going to set some things up. So under particle, change the type to faded sphere. Bring the size down a little bit. There you go. And then under physics, this is the important part. You got to turn the gravity to 0, and then lower it just a touch, so everything kind of floats. We're going to turn the velocity way down. It's like 0.002. I actually put 0.02. 0.002. Alright, so now it's very weird there. You see it just kind of shoots up like in a little fiery thing. So we're going to take the producer and just make it enormous, like absolutely gigantic. So push it way back into space and then make it way bigger. Actually, probably a little bit shorter there. And a little bit shorter that way. Right, so now you see you've got particles and they're kind of forming. Alright, see that? Go to add. That'll make particles light up a little bit more. Alright, and if you want to, you can turn on the motion blur for them. You can turn that on for the composition. And then they will kind of have a little bit more life to them. They will look more like sparks, which is what I'm trying to get at. You can turn the velocity up just a touch. And turn the gravity down just a touch. And then turn it to twirly. And so if twirly is on, you can see that this may take a little while to render here. They will kind of start just twirling about and just look nice. Alright, so it's kind of finishing up here. And just hit 0 to stop the RAM preview. Alright, you can see that they kind of fly around a little bit, but they look weird because there's not enough of them. So we can go up here to the birth rate and just pull that up to like 10, maybe. Let's actually go as high as like 16. Alright, so we can have that, and as they're swirling around, right, we're going to zoom out here, and then at this point, we're going to hit the birth rate and turn it down to like 7. And at that point, particles will start to go away a little bit, and it just looks nice. Alright, so we can go here and hit B. That'll just kind of start our preview right there, and it'll save some time. Alright, and you see there's particles everywhere, and they look nice, but there's a lot of them. And so you can just go here and see they kind of start to dissipate now. There you go. And then we can go back out. We're going to change the colors a little bit. We don't want them to be very yellow. We want them to be more orangey. So just bring the birth color down. And the death color, we want it to be about a little bit darker orange, but still orange. And the size, we want that to be smaller. And let's see here. I'm going to go in here and who's add in here. Alrighty, everybody. So there you go. I think that wraps it up for today. And this tutorial, I know it's kind of not too short, but unfortunately it's unavoidable with all the stuff I had to cover. But thanks for watching, guys. I hope you learned something. If you were able to follow along and do this just in basic After Effects without having to use any plugins, I would very much like to see those results. You can tweet them to @SacParagon. Alright, thanks everybody, and have a great day.